desk. Tonight has been a disaster. And I'm hoping that this review goes better than the last one did. And if you watched that one, you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you didn't, then you won't. I'm not going to speak of it. Okay, let me light a candle here and see what we can do about increasing this lighting. And welcome to my desk, in case I forgot to say the intro. Going for a small candle tonight. For this one, we're gonna see how it's gonna work out. I might have to change it up, but fingers crossed. It goes okay. Okay, so let me check here. My notes. What book I'm on. Okay, so tonight we're continuing the 100-book series, and we have book 45, and that is The Witch Hunter by Max Seeck. Okay, let's jump in and I will let you know the premise of this book. A best-selling author's wife has been found dead in a gorgeous black evening gown, sitting at the head of an empty dining table. Her most chilling feature, her face, is frozen in a ghastly smile. At first, it seems as though a deranged psychopath is reenacting the gruesome murders from the Witch Hunt trilogy, bestsellers written by the victim's husband. But investigator Jessica Nemi soon realizes she's not looking for a single killer, but rather for dozens of believers in a sinister form of witchcraft who know her every move and are always one step ahead. As the bodies start piling up, Jessica knows they won't stop until they get what they want. And when her dark past comes to light, Jessica finds herself battling her own demons while desperately trying to catch a coven of killers before they claim their next victim. So that's the premise of this book. I'm gonna bring it in close here so you can see the cover art, because can't do a review here on a book and candle without talking about the cover art. In this, it's kind of a desolate winter landscape. There's a lady here in a red jacket, black cap, kind of wandering at the edge of a clearing. And it does give the kind of ominous, cold, stark, a little bit fearful and threatening vibe that sets the tone for this story. So I do think that the cover art is a good leeway into the story of this book. The premise for this book for me seemed super interesting, and it was kind of that's how it played out for the most part. Unfortunately, this isn't going to be a 100% positive review, which has kind of been the trend lately, I think. I like the last two. The last couple. I think, oh gosh, it's so hard to remember now, but so it's a good story at the beginning. It's this kind of bizarre crime happens, and you're left wondering. Sorry, my mouth, throat's a little dry. What the kind of nefarious origins are, like, who is the murderer? Why is it done in this creepy way? You know, it's a very unsettling beginning to the story. It puts the reader into this kind of uncomfortable, jarring crime scenario where the characters in the book are deeply impacted by kind of what is done to the victim, even though at face value it's not overly gruesome or grotesque or violent. It's just, and I use this word a lot in the Echoes review, unsettling. You know, it's like, ugh. That's the kind of general consensus of the characters in the that are responding to the crime scene. And so it starts off really strong, and then you're thrown into a different timeline of the main characters. The main character of this book is Detective. Is she Detective? Gosh, I'm going to get her title. It just says Investigator. Jessica Nemi. And she's the central character of this book. And this is the first in a series about this character. So I think it's kind of laying the groundwork, which is why there's kind of a dual storyline. And I've talked about a few books in the past where you have multiple timelines running at the same time, and that was the case with Echoes, which was done really well. This book, not as well. You know, you're flashing back to her when she's younger, in her early 20s, exploring Europe, specifically Venice, and kind of what she experiences while she's there, and it's not great. She gets into a relationship that's just doomed from the beginning, and it's kind of really jarring, out of place. It doesn't seem to fit in with the main storyline. It's very much just laying the groundwork for this character, kind of for a future series, and I didn't like it. I didn't appreciate it. It seemed out of place, and the book, you could take out all those chapters, all that material, and it wouldn't impact the main storyline of the book at all. So that was unfortunate. I do think that the main storyline about the murders and kind of what's going on in the background of that was interesting, but again, unfortunately, which happens sometimes in books, you know, you get 90% the way through, and the main storyline really holds this book together, disregarding the storyline about Jessica's past and kind of her origins. That was that I already established could be thrown in the trash. It's interesting. Like, the main storyline, you're kind of like, ooh, what's going on? Is it conspiracy? Is it witchcraft? Is it people playing at witchcraft? Like, what's going on here? But you get to the end, and it was just so disappointing. And not the reveal was disappointing, but the kind of wrap up. There's so much kind of building, and then wasted space with Jessica's past, where they could have filled the book out with more context around the central storyline. You get to the end and it's wrapped up so quickly, and it just kind of all unfolds in like a chapter, and you're left there, and I was literally, I was like, what the is going on? You know, like, what just happened? They don't explain it. It's just kind of like, you get to the climax of in the resolution, and it's just like, what just happened? And then it just kind of jumps to, like, you know, it's like the end, and it's like 2 weeks later. And they don't explain really what happened, and I'm trying to figure out how to kind of explain that better without spoiling the ending. But basically, Jessica's, well, obviously she doesn't die because she goes on in the series, so that's not spoiling anything. But she kind of has this confrontation with who's behind all of this mess, and then her co-workers are also kind of involved in that, and then there's their lives are threatened, and they're like captive, and then you don't know whether or not they survive, basically. I'm sorry, I'll put a big spoiler on the screen in post before I say that, but I don't know if that's really a spoiler though, because you just don't know. I had to go on the internet after I read this book to find out what the ending was. Like, it was super frustrating and unsatisfying. And then you cut to like the 2 weeks or whatever it is amount of time later, with Jessica, who's kind of reeling in the aftermath of everything that happened, and it's just super bizarre. The last chapter of this book makes no fucking sense at all. I don't know, it's written in a way that's like, I think supposed to be purposefully ambiguous, but it's just a mess. Again, I could have like done without finding out about the resolution of the crimes thing, you know, was weird and ambiguous and not clear and fuzzy and hazy and foggy and any other synonym of those words you can think of. Muddy, cloudy, dirty. Like looking through a window that's obscured with newspaper. And then you get this last chapter that's just like, what? 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 Like, that's That's the only word that I can think of to describe it. I'm just gonna take a glance here at my book to see if I have any clarifying thoughts, because right now I'm just getting annoyed. I'm like working myself up about how annoyed I was by the way this book ended. Yeah, there's nothing really in there other than that it was super rushed and left you with a ton of questions, and not in a good way. Not like where the story's kind of resolved and then there's a new cliffhanger to kind of, or like tidbit of mystery to make you want to read the next book in the series. It was just, I had no idea what it meant. And specifically, the very last words in the book. There's kind of this phrase that's repeated and this theme about mirrors that's never explained, and it's thrown in there at the end of the book like this. Just noticed my candle's dying. Like this kind of gotcha moment, but it doesn't work. It doesn't land. It doesn't have the punch that it's supposed to. Like you can tell what it's meant to be, but because you can't understand it, it loses all of its value. And again, I had to go on the internet to see if anyone could tell me what the ending of this book meant, or what great, I should have cut the wick on that. Could explain it to me, because I had no clue. And what I found out in doing some research is that that's pretty common with people who read this book. I found one instance of someone kind of explaining the wrap-up of the crime storyline, and no one really explaining the last chapter that was about something completely unrelated. Well, not completely unrelated, but just can you tell how confused and frustrated and annoyed I was with the last couple chapters of this book. Oh gosh, guys, it had such potential, and then it just fell all apart at the end, and that's really unfortunate. Now, I said in my last review that I would be interested to read more by this author, and I would, because the parts of this book that were good were good. You know, unique storytelling that had pretty good pacing. There were elements I would leave out and leave behind, and seemed unnecessary to me to be included in the book. But I think that this author does have potential as it goes for this particular storyline about this particular character. I have absolutely no interest in continuing it. So if he's written books, other independent books, or ones about other characters, then that would be where I would gravitate to see if the faults in this book are characteristic of this author, or if this is just kind of a unique case, because I do appreciate the idea of the book, and I appreciate the building of the main storyline, I just think the ending was rushed and unclear at best. So I have real mixed feelings about this one. If you've read this book, or if you've read anything else by this author, let me know what you thought, because I just am really conflicted. I can't recommend this book, and I feel, again, conflicted about that, because when you read it, it sounds like it's going to be a good story, but I think the inclusion of the whole Jessica backstory, which is clearly a tool to set up this character for a series of her own, was too much of a draw from the main story. It took up too much of the book, away from the real interesting parts, and was where time and effort could have been better spent on the resolution of the story, and then also filling out the last chapter that kind of was the real establishing of where this story for this character is going to go next, and made that more clear, because it was vague in a way that wasn't mysterious or intriguing. It was vague in a way that was like, well, it seems like it was just kind of like blah. I was just like, no thanks. That it didn't win me over for her, and yeah, even the storyline was wrapped up in a way that was just kind of odd, and it was kind of to establish her relationship to another character in the book who kind of knows the secret of her past and explains why their relationship is as kind of tight-knit as it is, but that could have been done so much better in a different way, and I don't know. This is kind of the first book by an author, like a Scandinavian author, that I've read. I've kind of seen a lot of like TV and movie content that's come out of that region, and so I was really interested to read a thriller in print, to see if it kind of hits it the same way, like The Chestnut Man was a series, and that's based on a book, which I will probably never read because the series unsettled me. So I find books, I don't know if you feel this way also, but I kind of find books leave you in a mindset that feels a little bit more unsafe than media does. You can kind of detach yourself from film and TV in a way that you can't with a book, because when you're reading it, it kind of all takes place inside your mind. It's internal, whereas film and TV are external, so there's kind of a separation there. And I find that books have a deeper impact on kind of your psyche and your soul in a way that the others don't. closes off book 45 of 100, and I don't know if I still need to be doing the of 100 thing now that it's officially been more than a year. But we're just gonna keep going. We're going to 100, guys. The next book, which I thought I had here, but I don't see it, so I'm just gonna go grab it and be right back. Looks like my book fell over a little bit while I was gone. So I've pretty much come to the end of all of the books from my book hauls. There was one that was in there was Many Rivers to Cross. I didn't read that one. I started it. It was not good. I shouldn't say it was not good because I didn't finish it. The way the story was structured, it didn't vibe with me, so I stopped reading it about, I think it was 55 pages in. I was just like, nope, not wasting my time. I had spent about a week fighting to read it while I was on vacation, and I wasted my whole vacation on that book, and I was just so mad about it. I had 2 days left of my week of vacation, and I was like, I am not wasting any more time on this book. It was so hard for me to read because it felt like the author kept repeating information. I don't know, it was kind of like they were dumbing stuff down for the reader, and anyways, I didn't read it, so you're not going to see that book in the 100 books. If you were looking for it, it's not coming. So what happened was I picked up some more books. Surprise, surprise. I have a problem, and it's books. They are my weakness, books and candy. So the next book in the 100 books, I'm pretty sure I actually haven't started it yet. So this is what you're gonna see, unless somehow tomorrow, it's probably not gonna happen though. I get Cabinet of Curiosities. I have a line on it, potentially. But I doubt it'll be here. I'm probably gonna start reading this book tomorrow. So this is what you're gonna see. Good Omens by Derek Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. And this is a book I had heard of, but I didn't ever want to read it. And so I actually picked this up because I watched the series Good Omens on Prime. I got a free trial of Prime, and somehow I was flooded with clips of David and Michael, who star in Good Omens, on YouTube around the same time, and it must have been a conspiracy. So I was like, I gotta go watch this show, and I did, and it was fantastic. Highly recommend. Good Omens on Prime. Season 3 is in the works. It is coming. And it made me get the book, which was actually kind of hard to find, and I ended up finding it on Book Outlet. And it wasn't there the last time I did a book haul. The last time I picked up books was at Boxing Week, and it wasn't there then. I checked, and I couldn't get it on Amazon, and I couldn't get it on Chapters. I think you could get it on Amazon, but it was like third party and stupid expensive. So if in the meantime you're looking to pick this up and you're in Canada, or maybe the US. I don't know where people source books in the US, but it was available on Book Outlet. And it was hardcover, and I think it was like 12 bucks, and it was like, oh, this is too good to be true. So I'm actually really excited to read this book, and it's not a book that I would have gravitated towards, I don't think, if I hadn't seen the series. So that just goes to show that sometimes when a book gets made into TV, it's good for the book. And I am a firm believer in the fact that the book is almost always better than the movie and the TV show. So, given how fondly I reflect on the show, I think this is gonna be a good book, and I guess we'll find out. But if not, I'll let you know, I guess, when I do my review. So watch for that. Coming next. Okay, guys, that's it for this one. Thank you for joining me here at my desk for another fun evening of book reviewing. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I was able to give you enough information about this book, The Witch Hunter by Max Seeck, for you to decide if you want to read it or not. It wasn't for me. It might be for you, though. And that's the whole point of these reviews, is just kind of getting stuff out there, you know. If I can introduce you to a book that you never would have considered or you never would have seen, and you like it, then that's the whole point. Also, if you didn't like it, you know, I'd really like to hear what you guys think, if you ever have read any of these books. It might be so random when you think about all of the books in the world, to stumble upon someone who has read the same book as you. And like, obviously there's going to be books like Good Omens that have kind of a cult following, that, you know, people, you'll run into pockets of people who have read them. When it comes to a book like this, The Witch Hunter, I don't know if I'll ever run into someone else who's ever read this book that I can kind of commiserate with about the promise that it had, and the fall that ensued. Yeah, okay, that's it. That's all. Thanks. If you like these videos, then please consider subscribing to the channel. Yeah, that's it. This is kind of like the main running theme of the channel, so a book and candle. So, thanks, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.